On Cowherd, the talented, sarcastic, occasionally caustic Rachel Bonetta.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Rachel Bonetta throwing things at me during the break.
Happy to be here.
In the herd as we're one coffee. I'm one coffee. And how many coffees are you? Are you a coffee? That's a giant.
Let's get wild.
Let's get wild. Let's go to the Cowherd Global Satellite Network. I always wanted to. Hold on, let me dial up that thing. There we go. He's a force multiplier. Actually, he brought the term force multiplier to modern day cable television. He's Eric Mangini. He joins us here in the herd. Jalen Ramsey sat down with a GQ writer, got super comfortable, and just went through quarterbacks and gave him a line on each one of them. As a longtime former coach in this league and a former head coach in this league, what's your reaction?
Yeah, I was unimpressed by it. I don't know why you need to do that. I can't imagine that Tom Coughlin was very happy with it or Doug Marrone was very happy with it. I don't see the value. It seemed like one of those things where maybe he started talking in the interview and then just got on some sort of roll. But I've coached a lot of really good cornerbacks, really talented guys, and they never felt the need to attack somebody else. They may talk about how good they are, but it was never about, their being a GM or talent evaluator and talking about everybody else.
No, but this is the talk of the locker room, isn't it though? Like, didn't he give us a glimpse into it? Again, it's not, there's no analytics, there's no true analysis there. It's just first thing you think of. This does give us a glimpse into how dudes actually talk if they didn't have a filter, doesn't it?
Well, I don't know if guys are sitting around talking like that and talking about the range of players in the league. Maybe they're talking about their Madden ratings and disagreeing with things like that, but it seemed a little bit more malicious than just casual locker room talk about how you feel about one guy or another guy.
How do you manage it when it feels like somebody's trying to make themselves into a personality, right? Like, look, Deion Sanders did this, and obviously he was successful on the football field, but he also used it for his second life afterwards. Darrelle Revis has used this, and he's become. He has ads on TV. Look, he can draw. I mean, not Darrelle Revis. Sorry, Richard Sherman. Richard Sherman has done this, and he's got ads on TV. Like, some of this does feel like, hey, I'm going to make myself into a personality for financial gain outside of the world of football. How do you manage that when you're a coach or you're a member of front office?
Yeah, I get that guys want to improve their brand and the rise of social media and all those things. And I'm fine with that, but I don't know how many advertisers are that excited about someone who feels the need to tear other people down. Deion, to me, was a guy who talked about himself and his ability, and people can relate or admire someone with extreme self-confidence. That to me is a great trait, and it's a great trait for a quarterback. I don't think attacking other people is necessarily that same trait. Sometimes that's a characteristic of insecurity. In terms of managing it, you know what you're getting typically when you draft most guys, and if they have the tendency to do that, you can't be surprised when they do that. Now, I imagine that they'll sit down and talk with them about it and talk about the team's perspective on it and why they don't like it. Now, whether or not that's enough or it happens again, I don't know. I would imagine it will happen again.
Let's go to the Cleveland Browns, which, again, another team they won one game the last 2 years. I do think they have enough talent to be better. As a matter of fact, they bring in Tyrod Taylor, who helped lead the Bills to the playoffs last year. He's their starting quarterback. There's been discussions now all of a sudden from Hugh Jackson about maybe Drew Stanton as the backup quarterback. How much of this comes down to how good Baker Mayfield is, but how much of it comes down to what you actually need in a backup quarterback?
Well, right now, I wouldn't put any merit into anything in terms of a depth chart. At this point in preseason, it's more of a rep chart. You're trying to make sure that you get guys enough work in different spots. It'd be unbelievable to me if Baker Mayfield wasn't the number two. Ideally, what you're looking for from your backup quarterback is a guy that can go in and run the same system that the starter runs and not have to change what the other 10 guys are doing. And ideally, it's a guy who is young, who is emerging, who is learning, which, Baker's going to be in there sooner rather than later. I don't know how long Tyrod will last there.
Yeah, how hard is that to not play a guy who's a number one overall pick? Like John Dorsey can tell us, hey, I didn't play Pat Mahomes. We didn't play Pat Mahomes last year in Kansas City. That's the 10th pick. This is the number one pick in the draft, and your Cleveland has won one game the last 2 years. The fans need hope. Like, how hard is it to sit a guy, even if you have all the good intentions at heart and you have a capable starter in Tyrod Taylor as the starter?
Well, it's the same situation that they're facing in New York with Sam Darnold. The owner came out and said that this guy is a franchise-changing quarterback, and you don't need to be a GM or a head coach to recognize great talent. Sam's going to start. He's going to start sooner rather than later, and it's the same thing with Baker. You took him over number one overall. Ownership's going to want to see him play. The city of Cleveland is going to want to see him play, and season tickets are down. The amount of people that go to the games are down. And an exciting young player like that gets people back into the stadium. That's important to the organization. It's important to the owners.
Hugh's an interesting guy, right? Guys generally like him. He thinks of himself as a quarterback whisperer because he's the one that got Andy Dalton to be, a higher level than expected quarterback in Cincinnati. But you got two real vivid personalities with Todd Haley and Greg Williams as the coordinators, and then you have Hugh trying to be player-friendly at the top. What's your thought of the personalities and how it's structured at the top of the Cleveland Browns coaching staff?
Yeah, well, I've never been accused of being player-friendly, so that's a little bit less relatable to me. But I do think that the most important thing is that you're true to whatever your personality is. So the most important thing is you get the guys ready to play, they're prepared, they understand why you're doing the things that you're doing. And however you do it, it's in a sincere way. So if that's Hugh's way, I'm all for it. Now, typically with coaches, if Hugh's a player's coach and it doesn't work out, the next guy they're going to go get is going to be a disciplinarian. And when you have a disciplinarian and that doesn't work out, you go and get a player's coach. And oftentimes those labels are misleading. You just need to be the coach that's sincere and honest and true to himself.
We're going to see the Patriots tonight taking on the Philadelphia Eagles, a rematch sort of the Super Bowl, even though it's preseason. Last year they didn't have really enough playmakers defensively, and they found a way to make it work and get to a Super Bowl, nearly win the Super Bowl. Offensively this year, not going to have Edelman first 4 games. They've already cut 2 wide receivers expected to contribute. What are your thoughts on just the talent that the Patriots have in relation to the talent of other teams atop the AFC?
Well, they have the most important talent. They have Tom Brady, so that's the starting point. They retained Josh McDaniels. They retained Dante Scarnecchia, the offensive line coach. They still have Bill, and there's been a history there of players that become household names when they go to New England or when they get a chance to play in New England. I remember early on we had David Patton and David Gibbons, and nobody knew who those guys were, and they ended up helping us win Super Bowl. So Tom has a way of making those guys into names that we all appreciate and recognize. It's about the scheme. It's about doing the right thing, being in the right place. And if you do, Tom's the most selfless quarterback in the league. He'll get you the ball. If you're not in the right spot, regardless of how much talent you have, we saw that with Chad Johnson, yep. You're not going to get the ball and it's not going to work.
Yeah, couldn't line up in the right spot, so they couldn't keep him no matter how talented he was at that given time. Last thing, Gronk did an interview. He said he never spent a penny of his NFL money. It's all been endorsements. How much of the Gronk meathead thing is an act?
I think that's a guy who's true to his personality. I think that Gronk is who Gronk is. Now, will it get exaggerated at times? I'm sure it gets somewhat exaggerated. And there's a different way that you can play to your brand or market or be a personality. Gronk does it in a way that's not negative, and a lot of people really enjoy it. And I think he may play it up more than what it truly is. But I do think there's some sincerity into what we see from him.
Yeah, I would say the same thing with Bill, though, right? Like Bill has a personality there. He may not let it out. He stays on brand, especially at the dais, at the press conferences, but he plays it up there a little bit as well. Eric, thanks so much for joining us. Go ahead. We got time.
I was just going to say with Bill, his philosophy has always been with the media, if I win, they can't touch me, and if I lose, they can't save me. So he's not really interested in promoting any brand. He's interested in saying the least amount that he can possibly say and protect the advantage that he has in terms of what the Patriots are going to do. But in personality off the field, yeah, he definitely has that. But, what you're getting up there is he's not helping anybody in the media ever.
All right, last thing quickly. I got 30 seconds. The rookie quarterback you've been most impressed by is who?
I can't even go there yet. With 2 weeks into we're going into the second game of the